We've all had those moments, haven't we? Those times when life feels like it's pushing against us at every turn. When every effort we make just doesn't seem to matter. And it feels like the universe is conspiring to keep us down. Maybe you've been there before. Maybe you're there right now. And if so, I want you to know something. You're not alone in this. Think about it for a second. Have you ever felt that sinking feeling? Like life is just unfair? Like no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, things just don't go your way? It's as if, despite all the planning and the good intentions, the job offer goes to someone else. The relationship falls apart, or some unexpected storm just sweeps in and messes up everything you thought was secure. And the first question that comes to mind in those moments is often, why? Why me? And you know, these are the moments that can change us the most. They can shape who we become, either by wearing us down or by helping us grow stronger. But the question we need to ask isn't why is life unfair, but rather, how do we deal with it? How do we face these challenges head-on and come out of them stronger, more resilient, and more at peace with ourselves? Today, I want to dive into that question with you, because here's the truth. Life isn't always fair. There's no guarantee that things will go our way or that all our dreams will unfold exactly as we imagined. But what we do have is the ability to choose how we respond to these moments. And sometimes, that choice, our perspective, our resilience, our ability to adapt, can make all the difference in the world. But there's something even more powerful here. What if I told you that this feeling, this struggle, is not unique to us? That thousands of years ago, great thinkers and spiritual leaders already understood this very human experience. Today, we're going to explore a perspective that's been passed down for generations. The Buddhist perspective on adversity and resilience. Now, Buddhism isn't about running from life's challenges or pretending that everything is okay when it's not. Instead, it offers us a way to look deeper into our own minds and hearts and to discover something truly extraordinary about ourselves in the process. It teaches us that the real strength lies not in avoiding the storm, but in learning to find peace within it. It's about looking at hardship not as a punishment, but as a powerful teacher. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to explore how Buddhist principles can help us face adversity with grace and strength. We're going to unpack practical ways to turn life's most difficult moments into valuable lessons and to find the kind of inner peace that doesn't depend on things going right, but rather, on our ability to stay steady even when they go wrong. So let me ask you something. What if these tough times, these moments that feel like setbacks, are actually stepping stones? What if, hidden within the struggle, there's a path toward a stronger, wiser, more compassionate version of yourself? And what if all it takes to find that path is a shift in perspective? You see, we often spend so much time focused on changing our circumstances, on trying to control the outcomes, that we overlook the one thing that's always within our control, our perspective. And it's this shift in perspective that can make a world of difference. Instead of viewing life's challenges as obstacles meant to bring us down, what if we could see them as opportunities to build ourselves up? Imagine, just for a moment, being able to face adversity with a sense of calm and clarity. Imagine having the inner strength to remain grounded even when things get tough. To see setbacks as a part of the journey rather than the end of it. That's the power that Buddhist teachings can bring into our lives. And the best part? This isn't some unattainable wisdom reserved for monks or saints. It's practical, it's accessible, and it's something you can start applying in your life today. So, if you've ever felt like life has been unfair to you, if you've ever wondered how to turn hardship into growth, or if you're simply looking for a way to navigate life's ups and downs with more peace and resilience, then stay with me. Together, let's dive into this journey. Let's explore how to face the storms of life, not by resisting or running away, but by embracing them as opportunities to deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. This isn't about dismissing the real pain or frustration that comes with difficult times. It's about finding a way to acknowledge that pain while also recognizing that it doesn't define us. It's about learning to rise above the chaos, not by controlling the world outside, but by finding strength within. And isn't that a beautiful possibility? To think that, no matter what happens, we have the power to remain steady, to remain whole, and to find peace right here, right now. So let's get started. Join me as we uncover the wisdom in adversity, as we learn to see life's toughest moments not as enemies but as teachers. Because, in the end, we may not always be able to control what happens to us, but we can always control how we choose to face it. And that choice can be the beginning of a whole new way of living. So grab a cup of tea, find a comfortable spot, and let's embark on this journey together. Let's learn to turn life's struggles into stepping stones. Let's discover the peace that's waiting for us in each moment. And who knows, by the end of this, you may just find that the key to true happiness isn't in avoiding life's difficulties, but in embracing them fully and courageously. Are you ready? Let's begin. Step 1. Analyze the situation. When adversity strikes, our immediate reaction is often emotional. We feel frustration, fear, or maybe even hopelessness. But what if, before jumping into that emotional spiral, we took a moment to pause, step back, and analyze the situation? That's the first step. Understanding what's truly happening and whether or not we have any control over it. Imagine this. A young woman named Lisa had always dreamed of a high-profile career in the corporate world. She was diligent, talented, and ambitious. But as the years went by, Lisa noticed something troubling. Despite her hard work and dedication, she wasn't advancing. She saw her colleagues, some of whom she believed were less committed, moving up the ladder while she remained in the same role. Slowly, frustration turned into resentment, and she began questioning everything: her career choices, her value, even her self-worth. One evening, after a particularly tough day, Lisa decided to take a step back. Instead of letting her anger consume her, she decided to analyze the situation honestly. She asked herself, was her struggle entirely out of her control? Or was there something within her power to change? Lisa realized that while she couldn't control the promotions her colleagues received, she could control how she approached her work, her mindset, and her self-development. She saw that her focus on others' achievements was clouding her own growth. With this new perspective, Lisa shifted her approach. She stopped comparing herself to others and instead set personal goals, taking extra courses to strengthen her skills, seeking out mentors, and volunteering for projects that aligned with her strengths. Soon enough, her hard work paid off. Not only did she earn a promotion, but she also found a renewed sense of purpose in her career. This story isn't just about career growth. It's about the powerful change that happens when we take control of what we can. Analyzing a situation allows us to distinguish between things we can influence and things we must accept as they are. When we do this, we gain clarity, reduce stress, and shift our focus to proactive actions that drive meaningful change. Step 2. Act on what you can control. Once we've identified what we can influence, the next step is to act on it. Sometimes, just understanding the difference between control and acceptance is all it takes to lift the weight of a situation. But there are times when recognizing control isn't enough. Action is necessary. Let me tell you about a man named James, who faced an unexpected career setback. He'd worked as a sales director for nearly a decade, a role that gave him a sense of identity and purpose. But during a company restructuring, James was laid off. For months, he was devastated, feeling lost and unsure of what to do next. The financial strain, the sudden loss of routine, and the bruised ego left him paralyzed. After months of struggling, James had an epiphany. He couldn't control the fact that he lost his job, but he could control how he responded to it. Instead of focusing on what he had lost, he chose to focus on what he could create. He brushed up on his skills, sought out new opportunities, and even explored different industries. He was reluctant at first, feeling unqualified and hesitant, but he continued to push himself. Eventually, James took a job in a different industry, where he found new challenges and satisfaction. by actively choosing to control his response to adversity. James not only reinvented his career, but also discovered new skills and passions he didn't know he had. James's story is a reminder that while life can sometimes feel like a series of uncontrollable events, we always have the power to shape our actions and reactions. We may not choose every situation, but we do choose our response. And often, this choice, the decision to act within our sphere of influence, is what transforms a setback into a new beginning. Step 3. Change your perspective on what you cannot control. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, there are things we simply cannot control. Could be other people's actions, unexpected circumstances, or events that shake us to our core. In these cases, trying to control the uncontrollable only leads to frustration and suffering. Instead, the key lies in changing our perspective. I once heard a story about a man named Daniel, who worked tirelessly to build his own business. He put in years of hard work, and eventually, he was successful. But as his business grew, so did the criticism from others, people who judged his work, his decisions, and even his character. First, Daniel took every criticism to heart, feeling hurt and defensive. But soon, he realized that he couldn't control what others thought or said about him. Their opinions were beyond his influence. Rather than wasting energy on trying to change others' views, Daniel shifted his perspective. He reminded himself that other people's opinions didn't define him. His own actions, values, and dedication did. He focused on what he could control, his own work ethic and the quality of his products. By changing his perspective, Daniel found peace within himself and the freedom to move forward without the weight of others' expectations. This idea of perspective is at the heart of resilience. In life, there will always be circumstances that we cannot change, but we can control how we interpret them. If we view challenges as opportunities to learn and grow, rather than as barriers, we transform our experience. One powerful way to foster this shift in perspective is through meditation. Meditation allows us to cultivate a mindful awareness of our thoughts, teaching us to observe them without attachment. Instead of getting caught up in the storm of our emotions, we learn to step back, see the bigger picture, and recognize that thoughts are just that, thoughts, not ultimate truths. By grounding ourselves in this awareness, we create mental space to accept what is, without trying to force reality to match our desires. Another approach is to surround ourselves with positive influences, whether it's books, people, or activities that uplift us. Positive reinforcement helps us maintain a balanced perspective, reminding us that we can choose peace over conflict, gratitude over resentment, and growth over stagnation. When we change our perspective on the things we cannot control, we open ourselves to peace and resilience. We let go of the futile struggle to change the unchangeable and, instead, accept the present moment as it is. This acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means acknowledging the limits of our power and finding strength within those boundaries. These 3 steps, analyzing the situation, acting on what we can control, and changing our perspective on what we cannot, form a powerful approach to overcoming adversity. They empower us to take ownership of our lives, not by trying to control every detail, but by embracing the wisdom to discern, the courage to act, and the grace to let go. By understanding and practicing these steps, we can face life's challenges with a clear mind and a steady heart. In doing so, we transform adversity from a source of suffering into an opportunity for growth, resilience, and inner peace. So, as you move forward in your own journey, remember that life's greatest strength lies not in avoiding hardship, but in learning how to rise above it with a sense of calm and courage that only you can create. This is the path to true freedom, to a life where we are no longer held back by the need for perfect circumstances but are free to thrive, no matter what comes our way. In our journey through life, especially when adversity strikes, we often find ourselves clinging to expectations. We imagine how things should be, how others should behave, how situations should turn out, and how our lives should look. Yet, Buddhist philosophy offers a gentle but profound reminder. the more we cling to these expectations, the more we suffer. When we let go of expectations, when we allow life to unfold naturally, we create space for peace, acceptance, and genuine happiness. Let's explore how this concept can transform our lives. Expectations seem harmless, even natural. After all, we set expectations for ourselves and others because we care. But here's where the problem lies. When we base our happiness on the fulfillment of those expectations, we set ourselves up for disappointment. When reality doesn't align with what we envisioned, suffering inevitably follows. Consider this. You expect a friend to remember your birthday, but they forget. You expected a project at work to go smoothly, but it's met with delays and issues. You expect a loved one to be there for you in a specific way, but they fall short. Each time reality diverges from expectation, frustration and resentment can set in. Buddhist philosophy suggests that true peace comes from accepting life as it is rather than as we wish it to be. The teachings of the Buddha emphasize the transient, ever-changing nature of existence. Nothing is permanent, and clinging to rigid expectations only amplifies our suffering. This wisdom challenges us to adopt a mindset of openness and flexibility, to let go of the shoulds and embrace what is. To illustrate this, let's delve into the story of Anna. Anna was a perfectionist, and her high standards often extended to the people around her. She believed that her friends and family should meet her expectations, that work should follow a predictable rhythm, and that everything in life should fall into place if she tried hard enough. But life had different plans. One year, after a particularly stressful period at work, Anna planned a vacation with her closest friends. She had meticulously organized every detail, from the flights to the hotel reservations and daily itineraries. She imagined it as the perfect escape, a chance to relax and reconnect. But as the trip unfolded, things began to go wrong. A friend had to cancel at the last minute. The hotel lost their reservation, and, on top of it all, the weather was unexpectedly terrible. Anna was devastated. All her careful planning seemed wasted. She spent the first 2 days of the trip feeling frustrated and disappointed, dwelling on how her perfect vacation was ruined. But on the third day, after yet another unexpected setback, Anna decided to take a different approach. She took a deep breath and asked herself, "What if I just let go of the way I thought this trip should be and accept it as it is?" As she shifted her mindset, something incredible happened. Anna's frustration faded, replaced by a feeling of peace. She stopped worrying about things she couldn't control, like the weather or her friend's absence. Instead, she focused on being present, enjoying her time with the friends who were there and finding joy in the little moments. She discovered that, by letting go of her rigid expectations, she could actually enjoy the experience for what it was, a unique adventure, imperfect but beautiful in its own way. Anna returned from that trip with a newfound understanding. Life doesn't always go according to plan, and that's okay. By releasing her need for control and embracing reality, she found a deeper sense of peace. Letting go of expectations doesn't only apply to situations. It also applies to the people in our lives, including ourselves. When we expect others to behave a certain way, or hold ourselves to impossibly high standards, we inadvertently set up barriers to compassion. Compassion, in its truest form, is about seeing others and ourselves as we are, with all our imperfections and limitations. Imagine this: you have a friend who's habitually late. Time and time again, you expect them to show up on time, yet they never do. Every time they arrive late, you feel a surge of irritation. But what if, instead of expecting punctuality, you chose to accept your friend as they are? What if you decided to approach the situation with compassion rather than frustration? This doesn't mean condoning behavior that's inconvenient or disruptive, but it does mean approaching people with kindness, recognizing that everyone has their own struggles and imperfections. By releasing expectations, you allow for a more peaceful, compassionate interaction. The same applies to ourselves. How often do we set impossibly high expectations for our own behavior? We expect ourselves to always be strong, to never falter, to succeed in everything we do. But when we fall short of these standards, we often judge ourselves harshly. Compassion for ourselves, accepting our own flaws and limitations, frees us from this cycle of self-criticism. Personal reflections on letting go of expectations. In my own life, I've learned that letting go of expectations has been one of the most liberating practices. For years, I lived with a sense of rigidity, believing that happiness depended on things going exactly as I envisioned. But as time passed, I began to see how this mindset often led to disappointment. I realized that by clinging to specific outcomes, I was closing myself off to other possibilities, to joys that I might not have anticipated. One example that stands out to me is my journey through career changes. At one point, I had a clear vision of what my career path would look like. I expected a steady rise, consistent success, and unwavering stability. But life threw me a curveball, a sudden layoff. Initially, I was devastated, consumed by feelings of failure and frustration. My expectation of a smooth career path had been shattered. But then, I remembered the wisdom of letting go, of trusting that even unexpected events could lead to growth. Instead of resisting, I embraced the uncertainty, allowing myself to explore new paths I hadn't previously considered. That experience became a turning point, a time of self-discovery and unexpected joy. By letting go of my rigid expectations, I found a career that I truly loved, one that aligned with my passions in ways I hadn't foreseen. This shift didn't happen overnight, and it's not always easy, but each time I catch myself clinging to a specific outcome, I remind myself of the freedom that comes with letting go. It's a reminder that life's true beauty often lies beyond our carefully constructed plans. Letting go of expectations is a journey, and like any journey, it begins with small steps. Here are a few practices inspired by Buddhist principles that can help cultivate a mindset of acceptance and compassion. Practice mindful awareness. Pay attention to your thoughts and notice when expectations arise. Are you hoping someone will act a certain way or that a situation will unfold just so? By becoming aware of these expectations, you can begin to release them. Embrace flexibility. Life is unpredictable, and rigid plans can set us up for disappointment. Instead of clinging to specific outcomes, try to approach situations with an open mind, allowing yourself to adapt as circumstances change. Cultivate self-compassion. Remember that you're human, and humans are imperfect. When things don't go as planned, or when you fall short of your own standards, practice kindness toward yourself. Recognize that setbacks are a natural part of life's journey. Express gratitude for what is. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have. By appreciating the present moment, we anchor ourselves in reality rather than in expectations. Even in difficult times, there's often something to be grateful for, whether it's the support of loved ones, the beauty of nature, or simply the resilience we discover within ourselves. Accept others as they are, rather than trying to mold others to fit your expectations. Practice accepting them for who they are. This doesn't mean ignoring problematic behavior, but it does mean approaching others with compassion and understanding. When we release the need to control others, we foster healthier, more genuine relationships. Learning to let go of expectations is not about giving up on dreams or settling for less. It's about allowing life to unfold without forcing it into a mold. It's about trusting that the unexpected twists and turns are part of the journey, and that peace comes not from controlling life, but from embracing it. In the end, the journey of letting go is one of freedom. When we release our attachment to specific outcomes, we open ourselves to a world of possibilities. We find joy in the present, strength in resilience, and peace in acceptance. This is the heart of Buddhist wisdom, a wisdom that invites us to live with compassion, both for ourselves and for others, and to discover the beauty in every moment, exactly as it is. 1. Story of overcoming adversity, learning to rise above challenges. Let's begin with a story about someone who faced severe hardship and found a way to overcome it. A story that might be familiar to many, but is deeply inspiring because of the resilience it showcases. I'm talking about the story of Thomas Edison, a man who not only changed the world with his inventions, but also showed us what it means to persevere in the face of repeated failure. Thomas Edison is often celebrated for inventing the light bulb, but what people sometimes forget is that his journey was far from smooth. In fact, Edison tried over 1,000 times before he successfully created a working light bulb. 1,000 attempts that ended in failure. Imagine the frustration, the doubts, the moments when he must have felt like giving up. When asked about these failures, Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This mindset, seeing each failed attempt as a step closer to success, is a perfect example of how powerful our perspective can be in overcoming adversity. Instead of focusing on each setback as a defeat, Edison saw it as part of the journey toward achieving his goal. Edison's story teaches us a critical lesson. Adversity doesn't have to be the end of the road. In fact, it's often the beginning of something greater. When we view obstacles not as walls blocking our path, but as stepping stones that lead us forward, we transform our relationship with hardship. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to learn, grow, and ultimately achieve something we might never have thought possible. Edison's story also shows us that resilience isn't about ignoring failure. It's about redefining it. If we can learn to see every setback as part of the process, as Edison did, then we're already one step closer to finding peace, no matter what obstacles we face. 2. Example from the Buddha's life: compassion in the face of rejection and criticism. Now, let's turn to a story from Buddhist teachings that illustrates how compassion and patience can help us overcome some of life's most difficult moments. The Buddha, or Siddhartha Gautama, faced countless challenges in his life, not least of which was rejection and criticism from society when he embarked on his spiritual journey. After leaving his luxurious life as a prince, Siddhartha began his quest for enlightenment. He gave up his wealth, his title, and his family, choices that not only shocked his community but also invited harsh criticism. Many people misunderstood his journey, calling him selfish and irresponsible for abandoning his royal duties. Even after achieving enlightenment, the Buddha continued to face skepticism and even hostility from those who didn't understand his teachings. But here's where the Buddha's response to criticism becomes truly inspiring. Rather than responding with anger or resentment, the Buddha met every harsh word with compassion and understanding. When people insulted or rejected him, he didn't take their words personally. He understood that their reactions were a reflection of their own misunderstandings and fears, not a judgment on his worth or his mission. In one instance, a man came to insult the Buddha directly, attempting to provoke a reaction. The Buddha calmly replied, "If someone gives you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man was puzzled by this response. So the Buddha explained that just as a gift remains with the giver if it is not accepted, so do negative words and intentions stay with those who carry them if we choose not to accept them. This response exemplifies a profound approach to handling criticism. By understanding that we don't have to accept others' negative energy, the Buddha teaches us that we can maintain our peace, regardless of others' actions. This story reminds us that compassion isn't just for others. It's a gift we give ourselves, freeing us from the burden of other people's judgments. When we embrace this perspective, we protect our inner peace, even in the face of rejection. Rather than letting others' words pull us into anger or hurt, we can meet them with understanding, recognizing that every person's behavior comes from their own experiences,
Limitation.
and struggles. Compassion, in this sense, is not just kindness, it's an act of resilience. 3. Story on compassion for those who hurt us. Finding peace through forgiveness. Our final story is about Nelson Mandela, a man who exemplified compassion and forgiveness even toward those who had wronged him. Mandela spent 27 years in prison under a brutal apartheid regime in South Africa. enduring unimaginable hardship and suffering. He was imprisoned for fighting against a system that denied basic rights to his people. And during his time behind bars, he had every reason to feel anger and hatred toward those responsible for his suffering. But Mandela chose a different path. When he was finally released from prison and eventually elected as the first black president of South Africa, Mandela didn't seek revenge. Instead, he chose forgiveness. He knew that true peace couldn't be achieved through retaliation but through reconciliation and understanding. Mandela famously said, "Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies." Mandela's story is a powerful example of how choosing compassion, even in the face of deep pain, can lead to healing not just for oneself, but for entire communities. By forgiving those who had oppressed him, Mandela freed himself from the chains of bitterness, allowing him to become a symbol of unity and peace. This kind of compassion isn't easy. It requires us to let go of our anger and our desire for revenge, to see beyond the hurt and recognize the shared humanity in others, even those who have caused us pain. But as Mandela's life shows, forgiveness and compassion have the power to transform not just individuals, but entire societies. Choosing compassion over anger doesn't mean ignoring injustice or condoning wrongdoing. It means freeing ourselves from the hold that resentment and bitterness can have on our hearts. It's about reclaiming our power, recognizing that forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves, a way to let go of the emotional burdens that keep us trapped in the past. Each of these stories teaches us something invaluable about resilience, compassion, and the human spirit. Whether it's Edison's determination in the face of failure, the Buddha's wisdom in handling criticism, or Mandela's courage to forgive, we see that overcoming adversity isn't about erasing the challenges. It's about transforming how we approach them. Edison shows us that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the journey. The Buddha reminds us that we don't have to let others' judgments shape our inner peace. And Mandela teaches us that even in the face of injustice, compassion can be a source of healing and strength. These examples encourage us to look within, to find the courage to rise above, and to let go of the burdens that weigh us down. Life will always bring adversity, but by following the examples of these extraordinary individuals, we learn that we can face any challenge with a heart full of resilience and a mind at peace. As we come to the end of this journey together, let's take a moment to reflect on the powerful tools we've explored. Tools that, when embraced, can truly transform how we face the inevitable challenges in life. We've looked at 3 foundational steps for overcoming adversity. Analyze the situation, act when possible, and change your perspective on things beyond your control. These aren't just steps to follow in moments of struggle. They're practices that, over time, can reshape our minds and lead us toward a life of deeper peace and resilience. The first step, analyzing the situation, is about awareness. It's about looking at whatever challenge we're facing and asking ourselves, what can I actually influence here? In doing this, we avoid the trap of wasting our energy on things that are outside our control. Life has a way of bringing us curveballs. Sometimes we lose a job. Sometimes relationships change. Sometimes health issues arise. But if we can look at each situation clearly, if we can understand what is within our power and what is not, we position ourselves to act wisely rather than react impulsively. This kind of awareness is like a guiding light, showing us where to focus our energy in a way that builds rather than drains us. Then, we come to the second step, taking action on what we can control. This step is about empowerment. We don't have control over every aspect of our lives, but we do have control over our own actions, responses, and attitude. When we act within this circle of influence, we strengthen our sense of agency, reminding ourselves that we are active participants in our own lives. Acting on what we can control means making the choice to move forward, to seek solutions, and to adapt rather than surrender to despair. It's a reminder that, even in our darkest moments, we still have the power to shape our journey. And finally, there is the third step, changing our perspective on what we cannot control. This might be the hardest of the three because it asks us to surrender, not in the sense of giving up, but in the sense of releasing the desire to control everything. When we let go of our attachment to how things should be, we make space for acceptance and inner peace. This shift in perspective doesn't mean we ignore challenges or dismiss difficulties. It means that we choose to face them with a calm heart, understanding that there are things beyond our grasp and that it's okay to release them. In letting go, we find a new kind of strength, one that is flexible, resilient, and deeply rooted in self-compassion. As we've discussed, compassion and reducing expectations are at the heart of living peacefully. Compassion allows us to meet ourselves and others with kindness. Even when things don't go our way, life is filled with imperfections, our own and those of others. But when we approach these imperfections with a compassionate heart, we find that there is room for growth, healing, and connection. Compassion isn't about excusing mistakes. It's about understanding that everyone, including ourselves, is doing the best they can with what they have. It's a perspective that allows us to soften, to see each challenge as an opportunity for empathy and understanding. In the same vein, reducing expectations doesn't mean abandoning our dreams or standards. It means learning to hold our dreams with open hands rather than clenched fists. When we cling to rigid expectations, we set ourselves up for disappointment, as life rarely unfolds exactly as planned. But when we approach life with flexibility and an openness to whatever may come, we discover a freedom that can't be found in trying to control every outcome. We learn to enjoy the present moment, to find joy in the unexpected, and to live with a sense of curiosity rather than judgment. So, here's my final piece of advice as we close this chapter together. Life is always full of surprises and things we can't control. Rather than resisting, learn to accept and find joy from within yourself. It's easy to think that happiness is something we'll find once everything falls into place, when we get that job, when we're in the perfect relationship, when our health is impeccable, or when every goal has been achieved. But the truth is, life rarely stays in perfect alignment for long. There will always be challenges, unexpected turns, and things we didn't see coming. The real secret to lasting peace and happiness is learning to cultivate joy from within, independent of external circumstances. This joy doesn't come from everything going perfectly, but from our ability to navigate life's imperfections with grace. When we learn to find happiness within ourselves, to see each day as a gift and each moment as an opportunity for growth, we become resilient to life's ups and downs. We develop a calm, steady presence that can withstand any storm. This journey of acceptance, compassion, and resilience is a lifelong practice, something we can return to again and again, each time life presents us with a new challenge, and each time, as we learn to analyze it and shift our perspective, we grow stronger, wiser, and more at peace with the world around us and with ourselves. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of finding strength in adversity. I hope these insights resonate with you and serve as tools you can carry forward on your own journey. Your time is valuable, and I'm deeply grateful that you chose to spend it here with me. Remember, you're not alone on this path. Together, we're learning, growing, and discovering the power of the tranquil mind. Thank you, truly, for being here